But we want to move to another issue, very, very important issue. That is the issue of reproductive rights and healthcare here in the United States. Obviously, the rights of women are very much under attack. And of course, there's the potentiality, at least, of this looming Supreme Court decision that would eliminate a woman's right to choose. So we are very happy to be joined as we delve into all this by Karina Garcia, who's an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation and an organizer that I must say has 10 years of experience working with immigrant communities around access to reproductive health care. Karina Garcia, thank you so much for being with us here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Karina, I think this is it seems like an inflection point moment. We're seeing not only the Supreme Court decision, but all of these similar ridiculous, bigoted individuals who are trying to take advantage of it. Oklahoma passing this new law that I think is banning abortion from the moment of fertilization. I mean, it's almost beyond parody. And it seems, I think, to many people that it's almost a foregone conclusion that these rights are just gone and there's really nothing that can be done, the courts, the politicians, whatever. So I'm curious your thoughts about that, because I think it seems like one of those moments where, well, I don't know, I'm editorializing. So anyway, I'm just curious your thoughts about that and kind of the framing I think we're getting from a lot of the media discussion about it.
It's been a hard few days just, with everything that's happening. You all talked about what happened in Texas earlier, and it's just, I think that we have to win our rights the way that we got them to begin with. And I think we have to remember how powerful we really are. We understand what is happening right now. We understand that this is a government that has provided no solutions to the problems that millions of people, the vast majority of this population, is suffering right now, from joblessness to lack of health care, the housing crisis, child poverty. There's like all sorts of problems, solvable problems that they should be working on, that they should be focused on, that they should be providing solutions to. And instead what they're doing is they're sitting on their hands and they're allowing a tiny group of people to threaten the lives of half the population, and in fact more than half the population, because the majority of people who have abortions are moms, right? That means they already know what it's like to have a family in this country. They already are living day to day thinking about these mass shootings and no solution in sight, thinking about the climate crisis and no solution in sight, thinking about all of these solvable problems. And it seems that the only thing that this government is capable of doing is providing arms and weapons and starting new wars abroad. When it comes to providing for people's needs and funding education and healthcare and childcare, all of the stuff that was laid out in that American Families Act that, of course, didn't pass, that was the bare minimum, really, of what people deserve, then it's filibuster. Oh, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied. But when it comes to starting new wars, then they have all the money in the world. You talked about it in your show, Eugene. Then they can pass billions of dollars with a majority, with so quickly, so effective all of a sudden they become when it comes to starting new wars. We've had enough. We've heard it all before. And what's important for people in the movement now is to go back to our roots, our fight. We're going to win our rights the way we won them to begin with, fighting, building our organizations, not tailing the Democratic parties, not wasting our time fundraising for them, and certainly not thinking that lobbying them is going to be the way that we're going to win back our rights.
Ooh, that's the kind of fire we need to hear. Well said. No, well said. Because I think right now so many people see what's happening with these kinds of issues, particularly around the issue of abortion access. And it does feel like Eugene said, this foregone conclusion. We're going to lose this right. Everyone just give up and spend all your time. If you're going to do anything, just put some money into some group that can help get people out. But now we see there's these laws that are being passed where it's criminalizing anybody who even leaves the state to go and get an abortion and then come back can be like criminally charged. So I guess my question for you, everything you said is so important and so true. But my question for you is, what is the answer? Like, what should people be doing? I'm not saying don't donate to organizations that can help people who need to get out of the state and go get an abortion. But beyond that, what can we do?
I think that this is a moment we have to put them on the defensive. We have to put them on the defensive. How is it that they provide no solutions for people, that they can't do the bare minimum for working families, and that they want to force us to bring more kids into this country? we have to put them on the defensive. We have to talk about the things that they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the failure of this government to pass any meaningful legislation for millions of working families who are suffering for no reason, because we live in the richest country in the world and we have all of the resources now to provide people with living wages, with healthcare, with education, all of the things that they need. They can send a billionaire to space. They can send drones all over the planet to start new wars, but they can't send people masks. They can't send people test kits. This government is a complete failure. It's a complete failure. And what we need to do is come back to our roots. We have to organize in our communities. We have to talk to people. Don't waste your money sending it to the Democratic politicians. They're not going to do anything that they haven't done already. They've been able to do it and they've chosen not to. So let's get on the streets and let's fight for what we deserve. That's how we've always won rights in this country. That's the only way we've ever won anything that you can rely on. It's because we've been out in the streets organizing our communities. It's a failed strategy. What many large reproductive rights organizations have had for a long time of thinking that they can just be friends and then make excuses for these politicians. No, we're not making any excuses for them, and we're not wasting another penny or another nickel of our integrity or time on those people. If they want our votes, they should earn them. Do something right now. Don't wait until November. Pass the women's health protection right now. The filibuster is bullshit. It's a rule that they have that is not in the Constitution. They can end it. They can abolish it. And in fact, there are people who are calling for that. Do it now. It's not a foregone conclusion that it's over. They can pass the Women's Health Protection Act, and all of this stuff that people are worried about could end like that. And that's not the only thing. We actually are paying attention to what's happening, and we're studying our history. We've learned from the last movement that we can't stop building our own organizations and fighting for the things that we want. We can't, because that's the way that they are able to do all of the damage that they have. We can't wait for them. We have to do it ourselves. We have to fight for the things that we deserve and unite the things. We're not going to stop at abortion rights. And we're not going to stop until we have all the things we deserve, until our families are living with dignity and with support and with resources. And God damn it, we could do those things. And so why should we let these tiny group of millionaires use all of our resources to put us into a nuclear war? All of our people need to stand up. These are the moments right now to get out there and talk to people and organize and protest and strike and build their own organizations. It's not over.
No, I don't even know what to say. You're right. That's all I know how to say. I mean, I think that's right on point. I think it points to, all of the different pieces. And I'm glad you mentioned the thing about the Democrats. I don't think we need to belabor it. I think your point was very clear, but I think we've seen the level of cynicism. We saw, of course, in Jessica Cisneros' race, she's running against this anti-abortion, pro-NRA guy, and, you have this Supreme Court thing come down. Then you have Nancy Pelosi recording robocalls. I mean, it just felt like a slap in the face, salt in the wound, insult to injury sort of piece to it. And I wanted to raise that not specifically because of the Democrats, but specifically because of the context, which I know you know a lot about, which is South Texas, on the border, deeply impoverished population. There's many things I could say, obviously heavily, Chicano population, and so much happening in that area. And I raise it because I think there are some people who want to create the perception that this issue of reproductive health care is simply just a white women's issue, and it's not a movement that is inclusive of working class people. And I thought that race was so indicative of one, how that's false, but I think it's an important issue, and I know you've worked a lot on this over the years, and I was hoping you could just address that, because I think when we talk about uniting people, it's an important thing that I hear, unfortunately, on the internet and places like that, and I hate to even give it credence, but I think it's important to address.
Yeah, and I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry because I get so mad as we're talking about this. But I think it's important.
It's the right attitude.
You can be mad and stay mad and use your anger, that righteous anger that you have, to talk to other people, to get out in the streets, to protest and build the movement. And about the Rio Grande Valley, this is something that people may not know as much about. There's a strong history of organizing, of left, communist, socialist organizing in the Rio Grande Valley. Farm workers, domestic workers, and these people's organizations have been able to survive and to thrive in ways that are unbelievable. The amount of things that our people are able to withstand, the amount of oppression and exploitation that our people have been able to withstand and push back, it is an isolated place and it has its different barriers, but the people are fighting. And I think that to the extent that the people have, sort of given up, or I don't want to even say given up their power, but like sort of said, okay, like let's let these politicians do the job, that's where we start to lose the most. To the extent that we get sucked into the Democratic Party's lies, that's where we lose. But the organizations that I've seen of people, the way that they fight for each other, whether that's because there's raids or whether that's because they're fighting for stolen wages or the conditions of farm workers, that history, we have to go back to that history. That's the way that we win things in this country. That's the way that we make changes. So I think the idea that this is like a white middle class women's issue, that's of course nonsense, right? We know that the people who are going to suffer and have suffered from this are poor and working class women, because no matter what happens, we can't just like fly away to some other place. Like rich women with means, they'll be able to go somewhere else and get their abortions and whatever it is. But working class women don't have that luxury. We're going to be here. But you know what also? That not having that luxury gives you something too. It gives you courage and fight. Like it's not just about having money and resources. It's about standing up for yourself and standing up for your community and demanding the things that you deserve. And for that, you don't need any money. You don't need any money. You need courage. And we have that. And we know how to survive. And we're going to survive. All those organizations that are in the border, they're organizing with women in Mexico too. And the women in Mexico 10 years ago were where we are right now. But they learned, and we're learning from them. The way that they are able to legalize abortion in Mexico is because they've been fighting in the streets, and they've been organizing themselves, and they've been helping each other. They've been giving themselves pills and sending each other and coming along with each other, acompañándolas. They've been helping each other, and that's the lessons that we're going to take too. That's what they don't want, but that's what we're going to do. We are learning from our comrades, our people in Latin America and Argentina and Mexico about how it is that you actually secure rights. We're learning from Cubans how it is that you secure a society with dignity that respects you and your family, that actually puts your resources for your survival, for your people, for your sovereignty. We're learning those things, and they can't take that away.
It's so interesting, all the countries you mention. It does seem to be quite an indicator in this, I guess, century, the progress a country is making on a social level when abortion is legalized or decriminalized or made accessible. And it is pretty striking how all of these countries in the global South, that many of which you just mentioned, that many in the US are taught to think of as like backwards or like, more conservative and less progressive. It's like we're seeing the opposite happen right now. We're actually seeing the US like regress quite dramatically. And that's even if we want to pretend the US ever was progressive in any way, it never really was. But does seem to be regressing and moving backwards, while a lot of other countries in the world are moving forward. It's more of a comment than a question, but it's just kind of a striking irony.
Definitely. I think what we can take from that as organizers and people who are fighting is to not have the arrogance of our ruling class, not think that we can't learn from other people's struggles from other parts of the world, not having that arrogance at all, and looking at the world how it is and thinking about our reality how it actually is, not believing the media, what they tell us, but seeing what are the conditions of our communities, what are the things that are happening. And we know that there are resources. And so our communities, our people are suffering for no reason. And that needs to stop. And that's why we can't just stop at abortion rights. We're fighting for socialism. We want socialism in our lifetime. We want people to be treated with housing, healthcare, education, all the things that they deserve, that we can provide not only for this country, but for the entire world. That's what we want. And so now they've made a big mistake by coming and with the arrogance that they always do. They overstep, and now it's going to make it worse for them.
Well, Karina, we introduced you as an organizer for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I know you're also part of a collective that puts out a great magazine, Breaking the Chains. I think, people who are looking out here wondering where to turn. What are some of the places they can go, they should look, get started on their own journey to stand up and fight back?
Join the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Check out our publications, Breaking the Chains. Start organizing wherever you are. If we don't have a branch there, we'll start a group there and talk to us, pslweb.org. We want to know you. We want to fight alongside you. And if you're not in a city where there's something exists, then make it exist. But the time is now. But we do have to move quickly.
Well, I think probably there are many people who are ready to fight alongside you now. Really appreciate you giving us much of your valuable time here today and just helping us sort through all these issues. Again, Karina Garcia, thank you so much for joining us here in the Freedom
Thank you.
Center.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.